I'm recording. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say that our second grade team at Hardy Elementary miss you so much. It was so good to see some of you guys out at the teacher parade. We had a really good time, and it was really fun to drive through your neighborhoods. I did get to see a few of you, and so that was really awesome. So hopefully it'll be something we'll get to do again in the future and get to see more of you. Also, please remember to be checking for those bus stops for lunches to come by, because they're going to be coming by every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with lunches and snack packs. And that's not just people who got snack packs before at school, that's for everybody. So any child in your house under 18 can get a pack of food. So be sure that you're utilizing that. Go out and get it. So this week I'm going to be teaching you social studies. And we're really excited that we're going to be doing some timelines and learning about some interesting people in American history. And today we're going to start with Miss Ruby Bridges. Now, I know some of you guys read an entire book about Ruby Bridges earlier in the year. I'm going to read a short story today with some more information about her. And then we're going to learn to put some events on a timeline. And so you'll see a lot of timelines this week. I believe you have 3, and then we have another fun activity that we're going to do. So right here behind me, you see our CLT, our Clear Learning Target. We are learning the significant contributions of Ruby Bridges and how to place events on a timeline. And if you remember, we've seen a few timelines throughout the year. They help us cement in our mind when events happened and how some events happened before others. And it helps us to be able to connect those events in the order that they happened. So we're going to continue to work on that this week, even though we're not at school. So first I'm going to read you this little story about Ruby Bridges, and it's going to give us some information, and then I'm going to tell you about how to start your timeline, and then you will finish it up on your own. So here we go with our story. Ruby Bridges, born 1954. She was an activist. Ruby made history in 1960 when at the age of 6 she became the first student to attend an all-white school in New Orleans. Although some other cities had already begun to desegregate, and remember segregation is when they separated African Americans and white people in schools, in restaurants, even restrooms. As well as the Supreme Court ruling in 1954 declared that separate but equal was in fact not equal. There were some cities where schools were still divided by color, but after an important ruling, the court ordered the schools in New Orleans to be desegregated, and Ruby was selected as the first black student to attend William Frantz Elementary School. Every step of the way was a challenge. Long before the first day, Ruby had to take an exam even to gain admission to the school, one that was written in such a way that black students were less likely to pass. Her father feared what it might mean if she passed, but her mother pushed for Ruby to take it for the sake of a better education. Many people did not support desegregation, and on Ruby's first day, protesters surrounded the school. Ruby had to be escorted by her mother and U.S. Marshals in order to enter. She was so young, it was hard for her to grasp what was going on. Many years later, she said she thought it was a Mardi Gras celebration because of the number of people out on the streets. She had no idea they were there to protest her. Once inside the school, the difficulties continued. White parents pulled their kids from classes, and many of the teachers refused to teach a black student. Only one person agreed to teach her, a young woman who had recently moved to Louisiana from Boston. Miss Henry became Ruby's only confidant and friend. During the fight for civil rights, Ruby became a symbol for the vulnerability of that all black Americans faced. So, you guys, in your packet, you have this picture of Ruby Bridges' timeline. Now, not everything that is on this timeline is in that story we just read. So you may have to go out and do a little research, but I know you all know how to Google. So you can find this information really easily, okay? But I'm going to start with the very first one because I know most of you are going to know that. You'll see that her timeline starts with 1954. Then we have 1960, 1984, 1995, and 2001. And the reason it keeps going, even though our story talked about one event that happened in 1960, is because Ruby didn't stop with just being the first black student in a New Orleans school. She continued to fight for the rights of African Americans. So I want you to be able to look her up, do some research, because that's part of your learning how to research on the internet. So let's look at 1954. So 1954, if you remember from our story at the very top, said that's when Ruby was born. So one of your little papers at the bottom says Ruby was born on a farm in Mississippi. And we know from that story and from the other research that you're going to do that she was born in 1954. So you're going to take yours and you're going to glue it right here under 1954. Then you can take the other 4 events and paste those on. So be sure when you're doing your packet, if you need to take your packet apart so it's easier to work with, please do. We don't mind. We can always staple them back together, okay? And when you get to the end, you'll have them all, and your paper will only be this half piece, so you're going to have to cut the bottom off. But don't forget, put your names on your papers, okay? I picked up several packets this week that did not have names on them, so it's going to be hard to know which second grade class they go to. Right, if you were all in my class, I can pretty much tell your handwriting, and I know whose is whose. But when we have 80 students giving us papers, it's hard to tell who they belong to if you don't put your name on it. So I want you guys to go get to work on this, and we'll be back tomorrow with another story, and we're going to be learning about Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. So I'll see you tomorrow.